you developed well being lied to by those demonic beings, you're not going to be free. You'll be free from the demon, its attack, but you won't be free from the lie. And so demonic deception always results in self-deception. In other words, a demon lies to you for long enough, telling you lies again and again and again and again. Eventually, you begin to repeat the lies of that demon to yourself. And once you understand these very simple explanations, then things start to make sense. Okay, as a born-again believer, that's why sometimes I feel so heavy. That's why I feel attacked. Yes, it is a demonic attack. But once you've rebuked them and silenced them using the authority of Christ, you have to deal with the emotional and mental problems that are left over from those attacks that come about as the result of the deception that we believe. So when you believe the deception of the enemy, now you come under a certain mindset. So for me, I had to find the lie that was working on me. I had to find out what is going on. Why do I continue to feel what I feel? Why do I continue to have panic attacks? Why do I continue to feel anxious? Well, the answer came for me one day, and it was an unexpected thing, and it actually came to me at the worst time in my life, when God really gave me breakthrough. Breakthrough comes when you know the truth. Freedom comes when you live in the truth. You have your aha, your spiritual epiphany, when you learn of a truth that will set you free. But only when you walk in that truth do you realize, does that freedom become tangible. So this was at a season in my life. My friendships were strained because of my paranoid mind. My marriage, I was a newlywed, so it wasn't terrible, but it was in need of some work, definitely. The ministry wasn't doing well by human metrics. In other words, anyone looking at the ministry from the outside in might say, okay, well, it's kind of a small ministry, not really making big impact. No one was really watching the videos. People weren't exactly reading my blogs. My books weren't exactly being spread around the world and so forth. So at least by natural metrics, you wouldn't have deemed the ministry a success. I know we measure our success by our obedience to God, but I'm just painting a picture for you to let you know I was discouraged. Friendship strain, marriage a little unstable, ministry, it wasn't going anywhere, didn't seem to be going anywhere. I was afraid I was failing as a husband. I was afraid I was failing as a minister. I was afraid that I wouldn't fulfill my purpose. I was battling with anxiety. I was battling with panic attacks. I was battling with heavy weight of emotional, like depression on me. It was tough. And so I was booked to go preach at a church in North Carolina. And I remember the flight was very early in the morning. This is before I had an assistant who would help book my flights. It was basically whatever flights they booked. And so they booked me on, to save like $20. They booked me at like a 5 a.m. flight or something ridiculous like that. And so I remember the night before just packing. And I remember thinking, what am I doing? I'm just so discouraged. I'm fearful. I'm having panic attacks again. I didn't want to go to the airport. I definitely didn't want to wake up that early. And if I'm just being real with you, I didn't feel like preaching either. I just wanted to go to sleep and maybe sleep through that bad season of life. You ever just want to push the skip button and jump right ahead to where what you think is the ideal situation? Well, that's where I was. I wanted to jump ahead. But that's when the Holy Spirit shows up. And so the morning comes. It's early. I'm tired. I'm physically just drained. I didn't get much sleep because my anxiety didn't allow me to get much sleep. And I remember getting picked up at my house. There was a couple of other ministry team members there. I get picked up at my house. I'm being driven to the airport. It's so early, the sun isn't even out yet. And as we're driving on the freeway, this car from the far left lane begins to cut across several lanes rapidly. The car zooms right in front of us, hits the center divider. We were exiting right when this car came all the way across to the right, hit the center divider, flipped over onto the ramp that we were already on. There's just one lane. Flipped over onto the ramp and begins to skid Sparks are flying from the car. It's on its roof. Sparks are flying from the car, hitting our windshield. We are braking as the car in front of us is skidding. It was like something out of a movie. It was horrible. I remember, to this day, I still can remember the sound, the screeching, the visuals. I looked and I saw the driver of that car being thrown everywhere in his car. Papers flew everywhere. His luggage flew everywhere. And we swerved just in time to miss it. I think we used like the safety lane to do so. And I remember just being so shaken up by that. I couldn't believe it. It was like a movie right in front of me. And so we called 911. Of course, we made sure that this gentleman got help. To this day, I don't know what happened to him. We didn't know him. We weren't family. We weren't friends. So it's not like they would give us an update. I don't know. But I'll tell you this right now, it just did not look good for that individual. I remember just seeing, and I don't need to go into detail, it just did not look good for this person. Now, we were early enough still to where we were able to get to the airport. And I remember trying to check in. We've just made it, and my hands are shaking. I was so shaken up by this, and I was absolutely just swallowed by anxiety. Remember, I had already come to this point where I'm thinking, this is really bad. I'm just not at a good place in life. And then this happens, and I remember thinking, I've never felt this bad. Things have never been this bad for me. I don't remember feeling this hollow, this afraid, this anxious, this hopeless. And I'm just thinking, Holy Spirit, where are you? I mean, I sense you in the meetings when I'm ministering, but like, I need you now. I don't remember much about the flight. I do remember checking in to the hotel, going to sleep, and then just waking up the next morning. And I woke up that morning, and I just remember waking up staring at the ceiling in my hotel room. I'm staring at the ceiling, and this may sound like a contradiction, but I'm just telling you what I felt. I felt sorrowful. I felt terrified. I felt hopeless. Yet I felt numb. Just like this hollow shell, like there was nothing to it. I had never before felt so bad in my life. I can't remember feeling as bad since. Never before had I felt that bad, and ever since then, I've never felt that way again. It was probably the peak of my anxiety, peak of my panic, peak of the depression, all in one. And so I'm sitting there, I'm lying there, I'm staring at this ceiling, and I didn't know what to do. I just remember thinking, help me, Holy Spirit. Help me, Holy Spirit. Help me, Holy Spirit. And so this is a little odd because the Holy Spirit had never done anything like this with me before. But the Holy Spirit spoke concerning my entire past. This is what happened. This is the conversation, something to the effect of this. The Holy Spirit reminded me of when I was a little boy and I would see those demonic beings and hear those demonic voices and feel that demonic attack. And the Holy Spirit said, do you remember when you were a little boy and you were so terrified because you could see those demonic faces in your wall? Do you remember how you couldn't sleep? Do you remember how you had to have your father place tape on the walls in the places you were seeing those demonic faces? I said, yes, I remember that. And then the Holy Spirit said, and do you remember when you first went to school, kindergarten, and you were afraid of going to school because of how the kids treated you and how you felt unwelcomed, unwanted, rejected, and afraid? I said, yes, Holy Spirit, I remember that. Then the Holy Spirit said, do you remember how you loved going to theme parks with your mom and dad and your brother and sister, and how that was one of the highlights of your childhood? And do you remember how anxiety began to ruin those days? How even in those moments, you had this overwhelming sense that you were going to die? Even as a little boy, going to theme parks with his mom and dad, I said, yes, Holy Spirit,